The snow fell in delicate flakes, blanketing the world in an ethereal white. Christmas night had arrived, and the air was thick with the promise of magic. The glow of festive lights adorned houses along the quiet suburban street, casting a warm hue upon the snow-covered landscape. My family and I gathered around the crackling fireplace, the scent of pine from the adorned tree wafting through the air. As the night progressed, a restlessness overcame me. Perhaps it was the eerie stillness that settled outside or the way the shadows danced along the edges of the rooms. Unable to resist the pull, I decided to venture out into the silent night, hoping to shake off the disquiet that clung to me. I stepped into the winter night, the cold air biting at my cheeks. The world seemed hushed, as if nature itself held its breath. The snow underfoot muffled my footsteps as I strolled down the deserted street, the occasional twinkle of Christmas lights reflecting off the pristine snow. A peculiar sensation tingled in the air, a subtle shift that left me on edge. I quickened my pace, glancing over my shoulder at the empty street behind me. The houses, once filled with the warmth of celebration, now stood like silent sentinels against the night. My breath hung in the frigid air as I reached the outskirts of the neighborhood. There, on the edge of the woods, I noticed an old Victorian house. Its windows were dark, and a sense of abandonment clung to its weathered facade. Intrigued, I approached, drawn by an inexplicable force. The snow crunched beneath my boots as I ascended the creaking porch. I hesitated for a moment, my hand hovering over the ornate doorknob. To my surprise, the door swung open with an eerie creak as if inviting me inside. The interior was cloaked in shadow, the only illumination coming from a dimly lit chandelier that swung gently overhead. The air inside was stagnant, carrying with it a musty scent of neglect. As I ventured further, the floorboards groaned beneath my weight. The rooms were adorned with faded wallpaper and antique furniture draped in dusty sheets. It was a house frozen in time, untouched by the passage of years. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon a forgotten relic, a place where memories whispered from the walls. I wandered through the desolate hallways, drawn to a soft murmur that echoed from the upper floor. The staircase groaned beneath my ascent, each step echoing through the emptiness. The shadows seemed to dance along the walls, their movements unnatural and unsettling. As I reached the top of the stairs, the soft murmur transformed into a haunting melody, a tune that seemed to reverberate through the hollow corridors. The door at the end of the hallway stood slightly ajar, revealing a room bathed in an otherworldly light. Compelled by an unseen force, I pushed the door open. The room was adorned with flickering candles, casting long shadows that danced on the walls. In the center stood a Christmas tree, its branches adorned with ornaments that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly glow. A figure, draped in a tattered cloak, stood by the tree. Their face was obscured, and a cold breeze seemed to emanate from their presence. The haunting melody reached its crescendo, the notes hanging in the air like a spectral whisper. "Welcome," the figure intoned, its voice a melodic echo that sent shivers down my spine. "On this sacred night, the barriers between worlds thin, and the forgotten find their way home." I stood frozen, unable to comprehend the unearthly scene unfolding before me. The ornaments on the tree pulsated with an unnatural energy, and the room seemed to shift between the mundane and the spectral. The figure turned toward me, and for a moment its hidden eyes bored into mine. "You have stumbled upon the crossroads of time, a place where the spirits of Christmas past linger in the shadows." As the figure spoke, the room transformed. Scenes from a bygone era flickered like old film reels. The families gathered around crackling fires, children playing in the snow, and the twinkle of Christmas lights through the ages. Each memory held a bittersweet nostalgia, a glimpse into moments lost to time. The figure extended a hand, and I hesitated before accepting the invitation. As our fingers touched, the room blurred, and I found myself standing in the midst of a vibrant Christmas celebration. The air buzzed with laughter, and the warmth of shared joy enveloped me. I walked through the scenes of the past, a silent observer to the timeless beauty of Christmas. The figure guided me through the spectral memories, each step echoing with the haunting melody that permeated the night. Yet, beneath the veneer of nostalgia, a sense of unease settled within me. The joyous scenes began to warp, the laughter turning into haunting echoes, and the warmth replaced by an icy chill. Faces twisted into expressions of sorrow, and the flickering lights cast elongated shadows that seemed to reach out for me. As the haunting melody reached its dissonant climax, the figure turned to me once more. These are the echoes of forgotten tales, the shadows that linger when the celebration fades. I stumbled backward, the room shifting back to its abandoned state. The candles extinguished, leaving the room in darkness. The figure's cloak billowed as it receded into the shadows. "You carry the weight of these memories now," the figure whispered, its voice a phantom breeze. "Remember the ghosts of Christmas past, for their stories are etched into your soul." The room faded, and I found myself back in the desolate hallway of the Victorian house. The Christmas tree stood lifeless, its ornaments dull and ordinary. The haunting melody lingered in the air for a moment, then dissipated into the silence. I descended the staircase, the house now devoid of the spectral energy that had gripped it. The once inviting door swung shut behind me with a final thud, sealing the abandoned Victorian house in its silent solitude. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in its pristine white. I walked away from the old house, the haunting melody echoing in my mind. The streets were once again adorned with festive lights, but the warmth of Christmas had taken on a somber hue. As I rejoined my family by the fireplace, I carried the weight of the forgotten tales, the echoes of Christmas past etched into my very essence. The night held secrets, and I, an unwitting traveler, had glimpsed the spectral beauty that lingered beyond the veil of time. The wind howled through the skeletal trees, and the moon cast an eerie glow on the snow-covered landscape. My house, nestled at the edge of the forest, stood alone, isolated from the warmth and bustle of the village. The isolation had never bothered me before, but on this Christmas night, a sense of unease crept beneath my skin. I gazed out of the frost-covered window, the pale light revealing the desolation that stretched beyond my yard. The distant echoes of carols from the village seemed to mock the silence that enveloped my solitary abode. A shiver crawled down my spine as I turned away from the window. I attempted to immerse myself in the festive atmosphere, the twinkling lights on the tree casting a soft glow across the living room. The crackling fire in the hearth provided a semblance of warmth, but the chill lingered in the corners of the room. I decided to distract myself by delving into the Christmas decorations stored in the attic. The narrow pull-down stairs creaked as I ascended into the dimly lit space. The air was thick with the scent of dust and memory. The boxes of decorations were neatly arranged, each filled with ornaments, tinsel, and the relics of Christmases past. As I rummaged through the boxes, my hand brushed against a small, ornate music box. Its delicate melody echoed through the attic as I opened it, a haunting tune that seemed out of place amidst the festive preparations. I couldn't recall owning such a music box, but its presence stirred something unsettling within me. Ignoring the uneasy feeling, I brought it downstairs, its haunting melody lingering in the air like a spectral whisper. As night fell, I found myself sitting alone in the living room, the only illumination coming from the soft glow of the Christmas tree lights. The distant village carols had ceased, leaving behind an oppressive silence that seemed to press against my eardrum. The music box sat on the coffee table, its delicate tune weaving through the room. I couldn't shake the feeling that its melody held a secret, a story waiting to be unraveled. The unease grew, and I glanced toward the frost-covered window, half expecting to see eyes peering back at me from the darkness. I decided to put the music box away, hoping to dispel the disquiet that clung to the air. As I reached for it, the melody warped into a discordant symphony, sending a shiver down my spine. The lid snapped shut, and the room plunged into darkness. A breath caught in my throat as I fumbled for the light switch. When the lights flickered to life, the music box sat closed on the table. I hesitated, my heart pounding, unsure if what I had witnessed was a figment of my imagination. Determined to shake off the unease, I returned the music box to the attic. The narrow space seemed colder now, the shadows more menacing. As I descended the creaking stairs, the oppressive silence of the house pressed down on me, amplifying the distant sounds of the forest. Back in the living room, I tried to lose myself in the glow of the Christmas lights. The fire crackled, casting dancing shadows that seemed to mimic the haunting melody of the music box. I convinced myself that it was merely my imagination, the product of a restless mind in the solitude of the night. However, as the clock struck midnight, the festive atmosphere in the room shifted. The ornaments on the Christmas tree swayed gently, and the glow of the lights took on an unnatural intensity. The haunting melody echoed once more, no longer confined to the attic, but emanating from the very walls of my isolated house. A whisper danced through the air, indiscernible words that sent shivers down my spine. The temperature in the room dropped and my breath formed misty clouds in the frigid air. I felt an unseen presence, a weight in the room that transcended the physical. I stumbled backward, the music box materializing on the coffee table once more. Its lid opened and the haunting melody filled the room with an otherworldly energy. The shadows seemed to coalesce, taking form as ethereal figures that danced around the Christmas tree. In the ghostly glow, I glimpsed faces distorted by agony, their eyes hollow and voices lost to the passage of time. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of forgotten souls seeking release. The oppressive silence had transformed into a cacophony of spectral lament. Desperation seized me as I tried to escape the haunting scene. I reached for the front door, my hand shaking as I fumbled with the lock. The wind outside howled like a mournful dirge, and the snow-covered landscape seemed to stretch into infinity. I stumbled into the night, the spectral figures trailing behind me. The moon cast an unforgiving light on the desolate landscape as I sprinted through the snow. The distant village, once a beacon of warmth, felt impossibly far. As I glanced over my shoulder, the figures drew closer, their mournful cries echoing through the stillness of the night. The music box's melody reverberated in my mind, intertwining with the whispers of the forgotten. I reached the village, the glow of its lights welcoming me back to the realm of the living. The figures vanished into the darkness, and the haunting melody receded. The oppressive silence dissipated as the distant sounds of celebration reached my ears. The village seemed untouched by the spectral events that had unfolded in my isolated house. I hesitated at the edge of the festivities, haunted by the memories of the spectral figures. The music box, an artifact of forgotten tales, remained a mystery, its haunting melody etched into my very being. As I rejoined the revelry, the festive lights casting a warm glow on the snow-covered streets, I couldn't shake the feeling that the spirits of Christmas past lingered in the shadows. The isolation of my house had become a gateway to a realm where the echoes of forgotten souls sought solace on this chilling Christmas night. The howling wind outside my isolated house carried the chill of a winter night that clung to the bones. My home, nestled far away from the warmth and lights of the village, stood silent against the backdrop of a moonlit landscape. Tonight, Christmas night, should have been a time of joy and celebration, but an unsettling feeling gnawed at the edges of my excitement. As the clock struck midnight, I found myself alone in the dim glow of the Christmas tree lights, the crackling fire and the hearth casting dancing shadows on the walls. The silence in my secluded abode seemed to amplify the distant sounds of the wind, creating an atmosphere laden with mystery. I nestled into the embrace of my favorite armchair, my gaze fixed on the frost-covered window. The snow-laden branches of the trees clawed at the glass like skeletal fingers, creating eerie patterns of shadow and light. The village, miles away, was a mere flicker of distant lights. My solitude was shattered by the sound of sleigh bells echoing through the stillness. At first, I dismissed it as a figment of my imagination, a whimsical thought conjured by the holiday spirit. However, the jingling persisted, growing louder and closer. A sense of foreboding tightened its grip on my chest. I rose from my seat, a tentative curiosity overcoming the unease. As I approached the window, the jingling reached a crescendo and a figure emerged from the shadows of the trees.
It was Santa Claus, saying?
The red suit, the snowy white beard, and the sack slung over the shoulder were textbook images of the beloved gift-bringer. My initial excitement waned as I noticed peculiar details. The fabric of the red suit seemed to shimmer, taking on an ethereal quality that defied the boundaries of the material world. The eyes, twinkling with mischief, gleamed with an otherworldly glow that sent a shiver down my spine. Santa, or the entity masquerading as him, cast a knowing smile in my direction. The sleigh bells continued their haunting melody, each chime echoing through the house like a warning. "Santa?" I questioned, my voice shaky. The figure nodded, the smile never leaving its face.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
The unease deepened, and I took a step back, my eyes fixed on the intruder. The warmth of the Christmas lights seemed to diminish in the presence of this enigmatic visitor. "Santa, it's an honor to have you here," I stammered, attempting to mask my growing anxiety. The figure's laughter resonated through the room, but there was an unsettling quality to it, a discordant note that contradicted the joyous facade. The sack was placed on the ground, and the entity took deliberate steps toward me. As it drew nearer, the true nature of this intruder became apparent. The red suit unraveled like mist, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. The once white beard turned ashen, and the eyes, no devoid of mirth, glowed with an eerie intensity. "You've been naughty, my dear," the witch-like figure hissed, the voice a grotesque distortion of the cheerful Santa persona. My heart raced as I stumbled backward, my mind grappling with the surreal transformation before me. The entity extended a gnarled hand, fingers tipped with elongated nails that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. "What do you want?" I managed to utter, my voice a mere whisper. The entity's smile widened, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "I've come for something precious, a piece of your Christmas spirit." With a swift motion, the witch plunged its hand into the air, and the room filled with a bluish mist. The sleigh bells intensified, now a dissonant melody that echoed through the house. I felt a surge of cold energy enveloping me, the essence of my Christmas joy being siphoned away. I resisted the warmth of the holiday season, fighting against the encroaching darkness. The entity cackled, its laughter reverberating through the room as it continued its spectral theft. In a desperate attempt to break free, I reached for the Christmas tree, its lights flickering in protest. The ornaments trembled and the room seemed to push back against the intruder. The entity recoiled, its dark form wavering in the face of the defiant holiday spirit. With a final burst of strength, I summoned the memories of joy, laughter, and festive celebrations. The witch howled, its form dissipating like smoke in the wind. The sleigh bells, now a fading echo, retreated into the night. I gasped for breath, the room returning to an uneasy calm. The Christmas lights flickered in subdued hues, and the fire crackled in the hearth, its warmth returning to the room. As I caught my breath, I glanced toward the frost-covered window. The moonlit landscape held no trace of the witch that had masqueraded as Santa Claus. The village, bathed in the soft glow of Christmas lights, seemed blissfully unaware of the supernatural intrusion that had unfolded in my isolated home. I sat alone in the quiet aftermath, the festive decorations casting long shadows on the walls. The witch's warning lingered in the air, the notion that even in the isolated corners of the world malevolent forces could disguise themselves as the symbols of holiday cheer. The sleigh bells, though distant, whispered tales of the supernatural. The Christmas spirit, once stolen, had been reclaimed, but the memory of the witch's visit haunted the silent night. As I pondered the surreal events, a newfound appreciation for the warmth of the holiday season enveloped me, a shield against the chilling darkness that sought entry on this unforgettable Christmas night.